All right. So I'm very excited today to have Marion Franklin here with us. And I'm going to be just interviewing her and asking her some curiosity questions that I've had since I took her wonderful course last year. And I'm going to start out with the way that I met Marion. I went to the ICF Converge conference a couple of years ago, and I was a speaker in one room, and she was luckily a speaker after I had already gone. So I was wandering around and wandered into the room because there were so many people packed into the room. And I thought, well, who is this wonderful person? And I snuck in at the back and I was listening, and you were amazing on that stage. I have never heard so much wisdom come out of one person in a short period of time. I was taking notes like crazy. But anyway, that was the way that I met Marion. And I'm just curious, where in the world did all that wisdom come from?
Well, I think it's a whole combination of things because, wisdom from well, first of all, I believe you can't really be wise until you're older. So that's the first part. Because wisdom for me is taking all of your experience and all of your knowledge and being able to put it out there and live by it. In other words, it can't be isolated. And so for me, it came, well, I would say partly from, my home environment growing up. And then I would say a lot of it came from the person who taught me how to coach, who was also my coach, because he at the time, this was in the early 90s, and he didn't follow what we call ICF standards.
Yeah.
He did his own thing, and he helped me so much, even though I resisted so often on wanting to hear what he had to say. But the truth is, he really did totally change my life in so many ways and woke me up to so many things. So that was really, I want to say, the starting place. And then, having gone through a divorce, having children with certain problems, teenage problems, and being a single parent, you take all of that and it's what do you do with all the things that have happened to you, and learn from them, really. And so I think that's really where it basically came from, was and I've always been a teacher by nature. I mean, I taught high school, and I honestly believe that in sharing wisdom, it's it comes across that way when you know how to share in a way that other people can actually take it in, whether they're auditory or kinesthetic or whatever. It shouldn't really matter because you kind of know how to reach people.
Yeah, I think that's what struck me when I read your book and took your course, is that there were so many stories, like real stories, and so many little golden nuggets of wow moments in the book. I thought there's no way in the world I'm ever going to get all of these out of here. So it's just packed with years of experience, it sounds like. And
Mhm.
I like what you said, that going through difficult experiences yourself, like, just kind of carves deeper, patterns inside of us that probably makes us more valuable for other people.
Oh, without question. I've always said the more you work on yourself, the better your coaching will be. And
Yeah.
I really do believe that. And I've always said to people, use your experience, not directly like, oh, here's what happened for me, but what you've learned from your experience, use that in helping other people.
Mm-hmm. Kind of gives you intuitions about what might be going on for them,
Mhm.
but they don't want to hear about what was going on as
No,
much.
that's irrelevant. No, it really is irrelevant. I mean,
Yeah.
in coaching, it really isn't about us at all. And it's about helping them figure out what's best for them.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that if somebody talks to me about, I don't know, somebody who, you know, certain things about their marriage, for example. I mean, I can go back and think about what did I learn from my experience that could be helpful, and things to question. It just kind of just helps me form questions.
Yeah, but theirs might be completely different situation,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So yeah. One of the wisdoms that really impacted me, I think, in my coaching, is don't ask them to tell you what they already know. Tell me a little bit about how that came about for you.
Well, because to me, when you ask a question, you're supposed to be moving the conversation forward.
Mhm.
And when you are asking someone, tell me more, or which I always say the
Yeah,
expression,
that's a common coach question, isn't it?
right,
Yeah.
right. Or I need to know more. You'd never need to know more. That's the irony. You
Yeah.
never do. But I find that if you ask someone something they already know, it's your personal curiosity. And
Mhm.
it's not helping them move forward because they already know exactly what they said in that moment. Now,
Yeah.
if you ask them, what did you say when you heard that? That's your curiosity. Oh, like how did you respond, right?
Mhm.
But that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be saying, so once you heard that, what happened for you? Not what
Mhm.
did you say, but what was that like for you?
Yeah.
What was your experience? I want to understand who is this person, and it doesn't matter what the words were. So if we ask them something they already know, it's because we have a need to know, and
Mhm.
it doesn't help them in any way.
Yeah, I found out how nosy I am by paying attention to that one.
Yep, nosy curiosity versus coaching curiosity.
Yes, and it was really a brilliant, insightful thing for me. I'm sure each person that goes through the training picks up their own, things that correct their, the way that they've been coaching. Is that one of the things that you tell experienced coaches? Like, what are your thoughts if somebody like me has been coaching for 20 years and then they come to your
You
class?
have to start as a beginner. You have to come as a beginner. You have to come not knowing and being open to other ways, and as I always say, test it out. And if you like it, well then keep it. And if you don't like it, let it go. And if it can mesh with something you already know, then by all means do that. So I'm not attached to anyone doing it exactly the way I'm saying, it could be, but more that you have to, I mean, everybody has to find their own style and their own way. But by the same token, um, if you've been coaching for a long time, the good part is that you already know what can happen, and the overall idea of coaching, all that stuff is already there. But what you don't know is how to go deeper and make it more effective and more efficient. And that's where the laser focus coaching comes in.
Yes, and that's one question I had. You hear about laser coaching, or at least I've heard about it from other people who also, are proponents of laser method, but you have your own take on that, and you call it laser focused coaching. Tell me about that. I see the book right behind you, actually. That
Yeah. So, well, there's kind of an irony in how the title came about. So I first heard the term actually from Thomas Leonard. I was in a conference, maybe in 2000 or 2001 or so, and he talked about laser coaching, and most people, when they hear that term, they think 15-minute coaching, 10-15 minutes, we're done. And I was so afraid that if I call the book Laser Coaching, people will think, oh, she's a 15-minute person. And I really didn't want that, because so that's how the laser focused. So I was talking with a former student, and I said to her, I'm too afraid to just use the word laser. It's just not going to work.
Mhm.
And then she said, what about laser focused? And I thought, you know what? That really describes what I want it to be. Because for me, what it means is getting to the truth and getting there as quickly as possible without wasting a lot of time and a lot of questions and so on. And it's usually providing a greater truth than what the person is already believing.
Mm.
So when we think of it that way, that we're really helping them see something that's even more true, and we're doing it as efficiently as possible, then it's laser focused.
So what's coming to mind for me, it's like a laser light that you're shining
Mhm.
kind of into greater wisdom and
Yes.
focusing them on something possible that's bigger, or different. Yeah.
Well, it's greater. It's a greater truth. In other words, um, people, well, everybody has those beliefs, that's why they're stuck on something. I believe that if I do this, this will happen. And then if we help them see that, you know what, that may not be the outcome, it may actually turn out to be something much better or different than what you're imagining. We're now giving them a greater truth that there are other options, that there is something bigger or greater or different than what and it also comes up with people always think that things have to manifest in a very specific way. um, the example I got when I was learning how to coach was somebody who said, I would love to own a boat. And the coach said, okay, so what about, the docking fees and the gas, and then having to take the boat out during the winter because, we're not, a full 12 months of good weather here. And what about, and started to give all these pieces that the person, consequences or whatever you want to call it, the person probably never even thought of, and then realized what he really wanted was the experience of being able to get into a boat and going out on the water and having a nice day. Well, you can do that by renting a boat for a season. You don't need to buy one. But people are so locked into this is how it will manifest.
Ah,
So we have to help them see what is the experience they're trying to have.
yes, I remember that now. What is the experience that you're wanting? And it may not, you may not be articulating that experience or even thinking about it.
No, not at all. I mean, and like I put in the book about the opera singer, because I mean, look, we know I can draw, but I really, honestly, I mean, if I start singing, people are like, no, seriously, it's that bad. And so if I come to you and I say that, it makes no sense. I mean, people have this thing, especially in coaching, oh, everything's possible. Who are we to tell
Yes.
someone? But then there's reality. And the reality is the challenge would be so astronomical, it would be absurd. Or the person who's 75 and says, I want to go to medical school and become a doctor. Hello, it just doesn't make sense. But what's the experience? Well, maybe that 75-year-old wants to help people feel better or become an EMT temporarily. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I could be a public speaker and get the same experience as the opera singer without, I mean, yeah, I could dress up as opposed to put on a costume, but basically I could get that same experience that I'm looking for. So I think that's so important for people to get.
Yeah, I remember loving that part of it, the realism. I'm a practical person myself and have had some issues with, coaching only being this positivity thing.
Mhm.
Um, and that we're here to always make sure that they're positive. Well, that's kind of an agenda in a way, like,
Absolutely an agenda, and it's not realistic. I mean,
no,
look,
not
let's face it, if somebody had asked you, let's say last December, what's going to happen for next year? I mean, how many people got that right.
Yes.
Guessing zero.
I was looking for a great year.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think we have to really make sure people are in the present and they're based in their truth. Because, how I have the structural alignment with truth and vision and purpose, and truth taking up the most space because that's really what's usually not accurate.
What's an example of someone's truth? I really like that part too. So give us an example of
Well,
if you
that
happen to
I
have
can't
any.
sing.
Okay. Oh, okay. So truth really relates to reality.
Truth relates to reality, and yes, and what is probably possible for this person. That's right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because it has to align with the vision. So my vision of being an opera singer, is absurd because I can't sing, which is the truth part. So, but I'm going to say almost everything in the conversation is about discerning what's true and what is perception, because everybody has this perception. My boss hates me. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not smart enough. Whatever the perception is. But
Mhm.
then there's the truth that, maybe you're not smart enough to be a rocket scientist, but you are smart enough to be something, whatever, librarian or whatever it is. But the point I'm making is that what they come to us with is usually not anchored in their truth. The vision of what they want is not
Very
anchored in their truth.
interesting. Yeah, so it's the meaning that we're making out of it that might not actually be the facts. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really align with who we are. And
Yeah.
and then the purpose as well. What is the purpose? What is the reason we are here? What
Yeah.
is it that we're supposed to be doing to feel fulfilled? And that's why sometimes with purpose, what you notice is it's the person who isn't fulfilled in their work because it's not serving who they really are and what they really are about. So it's like, I think the classic is probably the person who wants to work in nonprofit. Well, no, you're not going to make the best money, but you probably will feel a lot more fulfilled and a lot happier in what you're doing because that's more aligned with your truth.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes me think of people who get into coaching too. What is the reason that you're getting into coaching? Is it aligned with your real truth? And sometimes it's they don't think about the other things that they won't have or could have or yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same with almost any profession if you think about acting particularly, because acting in a way is, playing other roles, obviously being other people. So what's that all about? Or nurses who really want to help, and so I think with any profession you can look at what's really behind it.
Yeah, I bet you were successful no matter what was happening in the world, up or down, good or bad, or whatever, with the years that you were coaching. Did you ever think about why that was?
Well, no, there were some years that were definitely harder than others. There's no doubt. It wasn't like straight up wonderful the whole time. Um, but I never gave up. And I think that's a big difference. Uh, and the way I started was almost, I want to say, really bizarre because uh, I was taking training. Well, I had just gone through the divorce and I was learning coaching, and I had taken a zillion workshops on personal development. Um, and I had to take a job because of the divorce. I needed, we were working together. We had our own business. And I just felt like I had to do something. And my kids were, college already. So, well, actually high school, but, almost college. And and I had to, so I took this job, which was, was actually turned out to be probably the best thing I've ever done, but for all different reasons. But it was kind of I want to say a dead end in the sense that, it really wasn't going to, it wasn't going to, I was never going to do anything with it. It was just a job. And I was in a biotech company. So I had a lot of smart people around me, and I love that part of it. And, but I had a boss by the end. The boss that I had was just the epitome of micromanage and insecure and it just Napoleon complex. I mean, on and on and on. And I just hated going to work and knowing that he had to be right about everything. And and then one day I was talking with a coworker, and she said to me, you've always said that you're not making a lot of money doing this job. It's not really fulfilling you. So what are you waiting for? And and it was kind of a wake up call. And so I decided, I let HR know about a month ahead that that was going to be my, my last month, but I didn't tell the boss until a week before. And a week before, I sat down and said to him, just want you to know that I'll be here 5 more days and that's it. Well, the panic that set in all over that office was hysterical. Well, then how do you do this? And how do you do that? And what about this? And I was like, well, you'll figure it out. And I just figured this is my opportunity, to really just give it back to him. And so, but what happened was, so then I finished that week. I go home, and that first Monday, I'll never forget, because I was sitting right here in my office, right? And I looked at the phone, I looked at my computer, I looked at the calendar, and I just said, oh my God, what have I done?
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
had such a panic. And the truth was that I just decided I am going to get new clients. I'm going to figure out how to do it. I just have to do this. I had 2 clients to start with. And I just said, okay, I'm going to figure something out. So I started giving talks that I had never, I thought, who could talk in front of people, So I started doing that. Then I joined the Chamber of Commerce. Then I put together a little workshop. Anyway, long story short, it started to build. But there were, there were definitely years that it wasn't as easy as others. That's for sure.
Well, you became a coach before people knew about that as a profession. So how did you tell people what you were going to be doing?
Oh, that was so funny, because the first thing people said, because we didn't, that in fact, they spent a lot of time at the time trying to say what to say to people. So if you said you were a coach, the first question out of everyone's mouth was, what sport?
I got that when I started.
The funniest one ever was a friend of mine who said she was a coach, and somebody called her up and said, I hear that you're a coach, and I want to know, how many horses does that mean, and how much do you charge for the ride? That to me was the absolute funniest. But I remember at the time they kept telling us, don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle. That was their expression all the time. Don't tell them what you do, tell them how you, not, I'm sorry, don't tell them how you do it, tell them what you do. What change do you help people make? So we had to really work on that elevator speech. I mean, the number of classes that they had around that was just absurd.
Yes.
And, but that helped for me to understand that you just don't say, oh, I'm a coach and I want you to reach your highest level and your best goals. And, which was the standard thing, because that was true, is what we wanted people to have, but it wasn't the right thing to say.
I like that, zeroing in on, this is the change that I help people make, because that helps you to kind of get clear about the niche that you're interested in supporting too, from your own life experiences. And yeah.
Well, ironically, back then, we didn't really know much about niches. A matter of fact, I had a friend who was she called herself a cancer coach for people who survived breast cancer. And everybody thought it was like, ooh, why would you choose that? And all sorts of things. But
Mhm.
the truth was, she was thriving, or the woman who came up, her line was, I coach women who share custody with a jerk.
That's a good
And
one.
she built that practice up in no time.
Oh, I can think of a dozen people who would have
Of
needed that.
course, of course. And then she even had men call and said, I think I'm the jerk. Or she had
Yes.
men call and say, no, it's the other one. My wife was
It's
the
the
jerk,
what?
whatever.
Yes.
But the point was that and that was the inspiration for all of us to realize that you don't just say, I'm a coach.
Yeah. Yeah. So things have changed so much in the industry. Now you can get a master's in coaching, and
Yeah.
so you can even major in it. So when you think about the trajectory of the coaching profession over the years, what are your thoughts about, how it's changed, and what happens in the world because of coaching? Why are we here?
Well, it's changed mainly in that we now have thousands and thousands of coaches. Whereas back in the day, we had hundreds of coaches, that's a big difference. And I have always had I guess, the vision that if we could just make it a profession, first of all, not just a hobby thing, but make it a profession and really help people all over the world, how much better this world will be. Well, obviously we're not there. That's pretty clear based on this last year, or the last several years probably, but that I'm not going to get into that. But basically, I do think that with so many people now accepting coaching as totally acceptable. It doesn't have a stigma attached. It doesn't have a woo-woo thing attached to it. It's just okay in corporations and companies and small businesses and individuals. And it's really just become accepted. And that to me is so brilliant. And the fact that it's gone from in the 20 something years, but maybe 27 years or so, that it's gone from what do you do? What sport is it? To where it is now, I can only hope that eventually almost everybody is going to realize that life with a coach is so much
Mhm.
better.
What do you think having a coach does for someone that they can't do for themselves?
It's interesting because even as a great coach, we can coach ourselves up to a point. But it's always like the shoemaker's shoes that aren't sold. Um, when you have a coach, it actually wakes you up to your truth. You get to hear things or see things in a way that no matter how many times you could have gone over it in your head, you never would have gotten there. Because let's face it, how objective can you be about yourself?
It breaks
So,
up your fiction that you have about yourself.
right. Well, the persona, yeah. And
Yeah.
so when you have a coach, it's just the most amazing thing to hear, uh, even if it's an offhand comment sometimes. Like when that woman who wasn't a coach and she said to me, well, then what are you still doing here in this job? I mean, if a coach had said
Yeah.
to me, I don't understand, you keep complaining about this, that, and the other, and yet you have something you love, what's holding you back? Which would have been a great coaching question. It would have
Yes.
had the same exact effect. So it's really that we can't do for ourselves what an outside objective listener can do.
Yeah. It's like helps us illuminate even the inner conflicts that we have with ourselves. So it sounds like,
Yeah, because we can go back and forth, and then the ego is in the way also. Well, you're not really smart enough to do that, or you're not this enough to do that, or who do you think you are? So, and that ego always plays. So if we could, which very few people on the planet can do, more like the Gandhi types, really let go of the ego and really just be present and allow the wisdom to flow. But that's not, especially not in and with the technology and all the things going on. It's not realistic.
there's so many distractions today, aren't there,
Far
from
too many.
truth and reality? Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, you just published your book, Laser Focused Coaching. I see it behind you. Phenomenal book. Anybody who sees this, I hope they go buy it if they don't already have it. How was that experience? Like, all of us as coaches are tickled that you have it out there finally. How was it to write the book? And I know you did the Audible too.
Yeah. Okay. So where do I begin? It was probably, and I'm not exaggerating, probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had.
I think that's why I
So,
asked. It's not
yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Well, I think first of all, I procrastinated many, many years. I knew there was a book in me. I knew that instinctively. But I procrastinated because my feeling was if I put all my stuff into a book, nobody will ever want to work with me. So I got coaching because I couldn't seem to really get going. I had all this material and I can't write it like I'm teaching because it's a book. It's not, so how do I do this? And so I got coached, and what I came away with was I still can't really do it totally on my own, like sit down and just start writing. So what I did was I put out an APB to a number of coaches that I knew from mentoring and so on. And I said, does anybody know anyone who could help me? Here's what I'm looking for. And somebody volunteered, her husband. And it was the most brilliant thing I have ever done. So what we would do is we'd get on the phone and he would say, okay, what's our topic for today? And I would just look at the class that I had done or whatever. And I say, this is the topic. And then he said, okay, go. And I would just start talking and he would type. And then I would just keep talking. And he, having had a social worker background, would ask questions like, well, how come you said that way? Or what made you do it this? And I thought, oh yeah, I need to explain that. So I got through the whole basic, I made a draft and it was 350 pages of stuff.
Mhm.
And then I gave it to this person who was going to be we'll call her overseer of this whole thing. And in the end, the irony of all this, the person who helped me the most was my son.
Oh, that's
And
lovely.
he's an executive coach and he works in an organization. And he is an avid, avid, avid book reader. I mean, I can't even explain how many books that guy reads and it's just mind-boggling. And the variety of books. And anyway, and I said to him, listen, I have all this material and I know it's wonderful. I really know it's good, but there's no flow. I have this topic and then I have that topic. I don't know how to put this in any semblance of order. I don't know because I teach it this way, but in a book it should be that way. And I was so baffled by how to put it together. And he took it and he said, just give me some time. And he gave it back to me. And then, of course, we tweaked and, did things. And then he would question things. And then I gave it to a developmental editor who would also, now he was a complete outsider, no coaching, anything. And he would ask me questions like, okay, so in this example, what's not clear is that. So I had all these people helping me. And then, of course, there were all my friends and all the early readers. And I have to say, honestly, I don't think I would still be my friend, because the bitching and the moaning and the groaning and the complaining was endless. It just took everything. And I finally designed the cover myself, and I chose the typesetting, and it was just crazy, absolutely
It's
crazy.
a huge collaborative is what it sounds like, but I'm so surprised because to hear the story, because as I read it, I totally got your personality in reading it.
And that's what I was hoping for so much, because I kept saying, when I was testing out people who were giving me writing samples, and I was like, they're losing my voice. They're not, it's not me. It's not, And so it was really important to me. And my son was able to do that, was to help me keep my voice. And then, of course, there was a copy editor, but that didn't really, again, it didn't totally clinch it. But it was really my son.
Well, isn't that a wonderful thing? He
Yeah,
knows you, so that makes sense. He probably knows you better than anyone. So,
I would say, and he knows the material because he
mhm,
learned it as well.
mhm,
He learned that material.
by
And there was
living
some
it.
things, a matter of fact, I felt like he actually could explain even better than I could.
Mhm, mhm. That probably felt like the right partnership. He's part of you, so yeah,
Yeah, it
that's really
really
great.
did.
Well, I, for one, am very appreciative that you wrote it, and I've
Yeah.
enjoyed it so much, I think I've read it 3 times.
Oh my gosh, I've heard
Um,
that from several people. Highlights, flagging. I bought the
oh,
audio
yeah,
and the
I
paperback.
destroyed
I bought
mine.
the Kindle and the audio. I bought yeah.
Yes, absolutely, and that what I did when I was in your class, I was trying to put it all together because I like structure and architecture. So I pulled all these things out to try to build a form, to help me kind of bring it all together. I know at first you were probably horrified, but for me, it was like I need to, pull the how do you open, and then, how do you reflect, and how do you do inquiry, and now how do so kind of pulling it all out into the practical. Now, how can I do it this way? um, and kind of reprogram the way that I was, the old frame that I was using. So anyway,
Mhm.
I thought it was wonderful to read, and I know a lot of people have enjoyed the book.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I went over 10,000 this week, and
Great!
yeah, yeah, and I'm blown
Wow.
away, just blown away, and 220 something reviews. And now somebody did leave a 1-star review and just said not satisfied. So I know there's somebody out there always who hates me, absolutely hates me. Seriously. And it is what it is. And then there's 1 2-star and 1 3-star, and those were both people who got the Kindle version in the 4 days that it was out, in between where I had changed something and totally messed up the format, and then it went back to normal again, but they never took their reviews away, and Amazon wouldn't take it away, so so be it.
Hey, I quit trying to please everyone a long time ago.
Yeah,
Like,
but that was painful, because it was that mini period of time where that Kindle version was,
yeah,
messed up. So anyway,
it is crazy they won't kick those out, but
no,
I
no,
guess they're just trying to be honest in their reviews, but
I suppose.
I think the reviews are fantastic on there, and I'm gonna encourage our classes to get in there and do some reviews.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I always think the more reviews, the more people are likely to get the book.
Yes, it's gonna make a huge difference, I think, in our profession. And as you know, that's why I was inspired, to come and now take it into corporations for human resource leaders, because if they're trying to build a coaching culture, then they want to be able to emulate that. And then eventually, I even think this laser method is your laser method, I think, is possible for leaders.
Oh, without
eventually.
question. Oh,
You
yeah,
know, I
for
mean, maybe
sure.
they wouldn't be a coach like you're a coach or I'm a coach and, people transformation or anything, but I think if they get the basic skills, they could certainly be better leaders too.
Without question. Or managers, particularly because you know how managers get to be managers is by doing a good job, but not
Yeah.
because they know how to manage. So they really need the skills.
Yeah. If we could just even help them listen better, listen more
Yeah.
carefully and really
And
zero in.
differently, listen differently.
Yeah, and then kind of line people up and ground them in the reality and the present moment and what's most important, and not get all caught up in solving the problem,
Hmm.
or get all caught up in the story and the meaning they're making out of the story, but helping them think a little different so they figure it out. I think it's perfect for the business world, actually. And if it could also, help us with some greater empathy and compassion and, understanding and some of those things too, then I think we've got a home run there.
Hmm.
Well, I'm wanting to ask you like one more question, if you
Sure.
will. Um, we're happy for you that you got through that book and the Audible, and wish you.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say. Yeah, the Audible meant every day, literally, in my walk-in closet.
And you read it yourself, right?
And I read it. I knew I had to do it. I knew nobody was ever going to do it justice, or at least the control factor was just going to be out of control. So I went into the closet every day and I did a chapter and I boo-booed a lot, believe me. But I had this brilliant, brilliant editor who works for Penguin Random House. And and he would just take out my ums or my repeat of the sentence, or when I messed up a sentence I would say whoops, I have to do this one over again. um, but he was just fabulous, and it just came out. Yeah, I knew it had to be my voice.
I'm curious if you feel a sense of completion having gone through all that and done both of those things, and now it's scalable.
Yes, totally, totally. I really honestly feel like I have um, fulfilled a purpose, which was some kind of legacy.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that this book will live on for, quite some time, hopefully forever. Um, and that was really what I was thinking, was that, as I get older, what's going to happen with all this stuff that I know?
Yes.
It's so brilliant that could help people so much, you know, help not only help coaches do a better job, but just make it so much easier for them.
Yes. This is like the final existential question to answer is, are you going to leave something that lives beyond you? So you've
Yeah,
done that. That's got to
I'm
feel
hoping.
very fulfilling. And I hope you enjoy that contentment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it really does feel good.
So if you want to pass on some wisdom to the rest of us,
Yes.
what is the most important thing that you'd like to share?
Well, a couple of things come to mind actually. I don't know if I can pin it down to one thing. But one is never try to be brilliant, because that's going to make you a bad coach. So that's number one. Because it's not the things that we say or ask that we think, oh, wow, this is such a cool question, is probably not. And the thing that we say because we're thinking about something and it just sort of comes out of our mouth, that's probably the most brilliant piece. So I always say, don't try to be brilliant.
Love
Um,
that.
the other thing is, I want to say, start the questions with what. And it sounds so like, who is she to tell me that? But I always say, I promise it'll make a difference.
Every
Uh,
question comes out better, doesn't it?
it really does. And then I would say, don't worry about results. And just don't worry about how you're doing, and don't worry about getting results. Because if you're really, truly present, all those things come automatically.
Mm, beautiful. Beautiful. Those are great words. Well, thank you, Marion, for being you, for doing this and, becoming a coach before the world was ready for it, and staying a coach all these years, and then creating this great legacy. We're all grateful.
Oh, thank you, Pam, for asking me these questions, because talking about coaching and the book and my experience, I mean, I just think it's fabulous for everyone to hear. Not, and I don't mean it in a conceited, egotistical way. I just mean that coaches need to know that even as we get to what, MCC level, which is still, a joke in the sense that people get so hung up with these initials. That's what I meant. But even at this level, there are times where we still don't know what to do in a conversation, and that's
And
okay.
it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I love that, don't try to be brilliant, because that kind of makes me just go, you know, like it's very reassuring that I can just go be a real person
Yes.
and not have to worry about how good I am.
And so many new coaches, they worry about asking the right question and a good question and doing a good job. And it just gets in the way of being
Yeah.
a great coach. Because if you can just really try to understand what's making it a problem for this person, you can just do great coaching.
Instead of trying to figure out the problem yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't need to
Why,
have
why is it a
any
problem for you?
answers of any kind.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much, and I'm just happy to see you and see you doing so well, especially, such a tough past year. You look great, and
You.
everybody's gonna love watching this.
I hope
So
so. I hope it's helpful. I just hope it's helpful in some way. And, I'm really open if somebody has questions or something that you didn't ask me that they want to know. I'm totally fine if, people contact me through my contact form on my website.
so how will they reach you if they want to do that?
Lifecoachinggroup.com.
Okay, lifecoachinggroup.com. And your email is marion@lifecoachinggroup.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. And your book is on Amazon, and your Audible's available too. Um, so, definitely we'll be telling people about it. And if they want you to come visit the discussions in class, I might offer another visit.
Oh, that would be fine. I mean, this Zoom thing works fabulously for me. I love the idea of not having to be any place, and yet I can connect with all these people. So yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Well,
Mhm.
thank you for being with us,
You're
and
welcome.
you
Thank
enjoy
you.
the rest of your Friday.
Thank you. You do too. And thank you, Pam, for even initiating all these, this whole interview and the questions. And I think it's great. So thank you.